Hey guys, it's Matt. Welcome back to Show Me Firearms. This is going to be kind of a different kind of video than what we normally do here on the channel because we're not going to be talking just Second Amendment and guns today. This is more of a First Amendment video because I just want to have a discussion with you guys about some things that have been on my mind as we head into Independence Day 2024, because tomorrow is Independence Day. And there's been a lot on my mind lately, because this Independence Day, for me, feels different than in years gone by. It's more bittersweet. And I think that's because the things we celebrate on Independence Day, freedom, liberty, all that good stuff, all that amazing stuff, it's literally dying before our very eyes. The ideals contained within the Declaration of Independence are on life support. So, of course, the whole reason why the Founding Fathers wrote the Declaration of Independence, the whole reason why they fought a war over it, was to secure greater freedoms, not only for themselves, but also for those who would come after them, us included, here in 2024. And we're seeing those freedoms being destroyed before our very eyes. Take the First Amendment, for example. Free speech it's being assaulted like never before. Good example of this is earlier this week, the Supreme Court just ruled that the Brandon administration can collude with big tech to censor speech they don't like, on social media. This is third world, banana republic, dictatorship type stuff that we're seeing. And there's a reason why the First Amendment came first, because the ability to freely speak your mind, share your thoughts and ideas with other people, that is the cornerstone of freedom. Because without the free and open exchange of ideas, you don't have freedom if you're living in fear of some sort of repercussion or consequence to the things that you speak openly in public. We're also seeing the weaponization of the justice system, and this is especially troubling because in order to have a free society, you gotta have the rule of law. Justice has to be blind. It can show no favoritism toward any one person or any one thing. And that's all gone. I mean, look at how the FBI, the DOJ, all the alphabet agencies are being weaponized and used to suppress political opposition. I mean, like, what is this? Soviet Union or Nazi Germany or something, where you got these corrupt government agencies actively going after and suppressing political opponents? Is just insane. I mean, just look at what happened with that sham of a trial that Trump just had here recently. And then, of course, you still got all the J6 political prisoners are still being held to this very day. I mean, if that isn't just crystal clear examples of how these government agencies are being weaponized against the people, then I don't know what is. And then you've got the continuous, never-ending, non-stop assault on the Second Amendment. And it's pretty plain to see why this one is so high on the government's list of priorities of rights and freedom they want to go after, because a disarmed population is much easier to control than a population who is well-armed. Because if people are not armed and they're defenseless, the government can do whatever the heck it wants to do to those people whenever it feels like it, and there's nothing that the people can do about it. But if you've got a well-armed population, then the government is always going to live in fear of what that population might do to them when they start doing this tyrannical type of stuff. And defending the Second Amendment is more important now in 2024 than it ever has been, because we've got a guy in government, his name's Brandon, he's currently the resident in the White House. He has threatened us on multiple occasions with F-15s and nukes.
If you want to think you need to have weapons to take on the government, you need F-15s and maybe some nuclear weapons.
Come on, are we living in a dream? We've got our own government threatening to kill us with weapons of war. Like, come on, seriously, what is this? And so that's why it is more important now than ever to defend our Second Amendment rights. But as for me, they can have my AR-15, they can have my AK-47, they can have all my guns, but they're going to have to pry them out of my cold, dead hands. And be careful, because that barrel will be extremely hot, and the government tyrants might burn their little hands on my AR-15. So, as long as I've got that gun, As long as you guys have your guns, there's always a chance, because without those guns, yeah, we don't have a prayer. The government will do whatever the heck it wants to do to us. As long as we've got guns like that, we have a fighting chance. So as we're seeing these freedoms that I mentioned and all of our other freedoms just being destroyed before our very eyes, it begs a question for me. What is causing all this? How can all this be happening? Because the founding fathers gave us an ingenious system of checks and balances that are supposed to prevent anyone from becoming a tyrant. So how is it that we've got all these tyrants in government right now, and they are, so far, it seems like they're succeeding with destroying our freedoms? How can this be happening in this literally just genius system that the founding fathers gave to us? You see, the system that the founders gave to us, it is built around morals and responsibility. So the way it's supposed to work is when one or even two of the government branches become corrupt, the other one is supposed to rein them in, to check them, to make sure that they do not become tyrannical, that they do not trample on the rights of the people. But then what happens when all three branches of government become corrupt and are in on it? Well, then when that happens, you see exactly what we're seeing right now. Our freedoms and our liberties being trampled on and destroyed before our very eyes. Now, the way I see it is nearly everybody in the federal government has sold his soul to Satan for his 30 pieces of silver. Now, there's still a few good people in there. Yes, that's true. But the way I see it, for the most part, the majority of people in this government today are they've sold their souls and they are morally bankrupt. But if you want to take that one step further, how is it that nearly everybody in this government has sold out and has become morally corrupt? Well, see, the thing of it is, government is a reflection of culture. Governments don't create cultures. Cultures create governments. And this government is unfortunately, it's a reflection of the current culture in the United States today. And since government is a reflection of the culture, that means that we have a corrupt, morally dead culture. In my view, there's just no other explanation for it. And the thing of it is, people simply don't care. Why? Because they are all distracted by stupid stuff. The pop culture, the sports, social media, their phones, whatever it may be. People have got their heads literally buried in the sand and they have no clue what is going on around them. So really, when it comes down to it, we live in a society, we live in a country today that is basically giving God the middle finger. And why should God bless, protect, and preserve a country that would do something so utterly despicable? So then what is the solution to all this? How do we fix this culture? How do we restore this country to the greatness that we once had? Well, the solution is simple, but it's not easy. The solution is there needs to be a mass conversion, right? People need to turn their back on this stuff and they need to put God at the center of everything. Because, just looking back, really not too long ago, things were pretty good in this country back when people went to church and put God at the center of everything. And unless we get that back, this country is probably doomed to fail. So then there's another question. Is freedom dead? Is there any hope of restoring the freedoms that we've been losing really over the last number of decades? Well, the way I see it, freedom, it's not dead yet. It's on life support though. It's on life support. And now there's always hope, of course. There's always hope. Because we as Christians, we firmly believe that when you place God at the center of everything, there's always hope. There's always hope. So, but the reality is I question a lot whether or not the people in this country nowadays, if the majority of people really have what it takes to secure greater freedoms, not only for ourselves, but also for those who are going to come after us. Because in order to fight for freedom, you have to be willing to suffer, to sacrifice, and even risk death. Because look at what the founding fathers went through to secure our independence. If the British had caught George Washington, John Hancock, Benjamin Franklin, any of those guys, yeah, they would have been hung. They would not have lasted very long at all. But they were willing to risk it. They laid it literally all on the line because they wanted to fight for freedom. They had that ideal that was bigger than themselves. And I just don't know if enough people in this country today, if they really have that kind of courage, that kind of fortitude to do what it takes to secure more freedoms, not only for us here in 2024, but for those who are going to come after us. So then what does all this mean for Independence Day this year? Well, like I said, it's going to be more bittersweet for me this year because we're not celebrating freedoms and liberties that are a living, breathing reality anymore. We're really kind of memorializing and remembering freedoms that we've lost, unfortunately. But despite all that, I'm still going to celebrate just as hardcore as ever. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm going to be smoking up a whole mess of ribs tomorrow, so that's going to be some good eating. Tons of fireworks, plenty of guns, of shooting, all that good stuff. So I'm not changing one thing with how I'm going to celebrate Independence Day. And speaking of how to celebrate Independence Day, if you guys don't mind following me down a little bit of a rabbit hole real quick, I just want to share with y'all a quote from John Adams in a letter that he wrote to his wife Abigail about Independence Day. So, speaking of Independence Day, John Adams said, "Independence Day will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America. I am apt to believe that it will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the great anniversary festival. It ought to be commemorated as the day of deliverance by solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty. It ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with shows, games, sports, guns." John Adams, my man. "Guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward forevermore. You will think me transported with enthusiasm, but I am not. I am well aware of the toil and blood and treasure that it will cost us to maintain this declaration and support and defend these states. Yet through all the gloom, I can see the rays of ravishing light and glory. I can see that the end is more than worth all the means, and that posterity will triumph in that day's transaction, even although we should rue it, which I trust in God we shall not." So, John Adams literally just gave us the blueprint right there. He literally gave us the instruction manual on how to celebrate Independence Day. So I do not intend to disobey John Adams' instructions, and I will be celebrating tomorrow as hardcore as ever. But like I said, it is going to be more bittersweet, unfortunately, because Independence Day is really becoming another Memorial Day, unfortunately. So, but we can't let that stop us from having a good time and celebrating tomorrow. And really, we need to use tomorrow's celebrations and festivities as motivation to continue the fight, as motivation to never submit to these tyrants. We've got to use tomorrow as motivation to help us to continue the fight and to never give up in that struggle to secure greater freedoms, not only for ourselves, but for those who are going to come after us. So, again, tomorrow, it's more of a bittersweet celebration, at least for me, unfortunately, but I'm also going to try to take it to heart and use it to inspire and motivate me to continue the fight. And I hope you guys do the same as you celebrate Independence Day tomorrow as well. So, yeah, there you have it. Again, I know this was really a different kind of video than what we typically do here on the channel, but again, there's just been a lot on my mind lately about Independence Day as we head into it tomorrow, and I just wanted to share all this with all of you, just to see if there's anybody else out there who is kind of feeling the same way that I feel as we head into Independence Day, because, you know, sometimes I feel like I'm kind of alone and that, you know, I'm the only one who has these kinds of thoughts or feelings. So just wanted to share this with you guys. And if you guys are experiencing something similar, be sure to let me know down in the comment section. And, let's have a discussion about it. Let's use the First Amendment in the way that the founders intended for it to be used while we still got it. So yeah, let's just use the First Amendment, put it to use down in the comment section below. So thanks so much everyone for watching this video. I really appreciate you all being here, and seriously, have a great Independence Day tomorrow. Don't disappoint Mr. John Adams. Celebrate just as hardcore as ever, and I hope y'all have just a great Independence Day tomorrow, and I will see you guys back in our normal type of video next week. So until then, show me them firearms.